Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring those really strange moments where our own minds seem to trick us. We're focusing on one cognitive shortcut in particular. It's called the halo effect. Have you ever had that experience? You meet someone, maybe they seem super charismatic or they just look really put together, stylish, and boom, your brain just jumps ahead. You automatically think, wow, they must also be smart, honest, really capable. That bright halo you're seeing, well, it might just be an illusion, a kind of mental fast track. So our mission today is to unpack how this single shiny feature can really skew our judgment in work, in life, even in love.
That's a great way to put it. The halo idea, it actually comes from, the circles of light around holy figures in art. But in psychology, it means something specific. One single positive trait, maybe attractiveness, maybe confidence, could even be how well someone speaks. It just automatically makes us see all their other traits in a positive light, even totally unrelated ones.
Right, so it's like a ripple effect from one good thing.
Exactly. And the reason, it really boils down to the brain wanting to make fast decisions. It's looking for shortcuts. It's about conserving cognitive energy. Instead of analyzing every single detail, which takes effort, the brain grabs onto one obvious positive and, well, extrapolates. It's a cognitive shortcut, pure and simple.
A shortcut that can lead us way off track, it sounds like.
Yeah.
It's kind of unsettling how easily our brains seem to default to these, well, faulty assumptions. To really get how deep this runs, I think we need to go back a bit, back to the 1920s. And the psychologist who first pinned this down, Edward Thorndike.
That's right. Edward Thorndike, an American psychologist, he coined the term. And his key experiment, it was pretty clever, actually. It really demonstrated this bias in action, even somewhere you'd expect total objectivity, the military.
The military, how did that work?
Well, he asked Army commanders to evaluate their soldiers, but not just on one thing. They had to rate them on a whole list. Physical appearance, intelligence, leadership skills, character, you name it. Different categories.
Okay, so a range of qualities.
Exactly. And what he found was striking. It was really consistent. Commanders consistently gave higher marks across the board, especially on things like intelligence and leadership, to the soldiers they rated higher on physical appearance, or even just being neat and tidy.
Wow. So literally looking good meant being rated as a better leader.
Pretty much. Thorndike basically showed that the commander's subconscious thought process was something like, well, he looks sharp, he stands tall, so he must be a capable leader too.
Yeah.
That single physical trait essentially put a halo over all the other unrelated qualities, lifted the perception of everything else.
Okay, so Thorndike shows it's rooted in something as basic as appearance. But how does that translate to today? I mean, think about things like job interviews or performance reviews. They're supposed to be more objective, right?
Supposed to be, yes. But the institutional effects are huge. Take hiring, for example. We see it constantly. Someone comes in, speaks really fluently, seems incredibly confident, maybe they're dressed impeccably. That single trait, that visible confidence, often gets mentally relabeled as high competence. And so these candidates can sail through interviews, sometimes over applicants who are maybe quieter, less polished, but actually have much stronger technical skills or experience on paper.
But hang on, isn't confidence actually a good thing in many jobs? Like, you want confident people on your team. How do we tell the difference? How do we separate real confidence that helps performance from just the shiny halo effect making someone seem competent?
That's a really important distinction. Yes, confidence can be beneficial, absolutely. But the halo effect kicks in when we make that leap, that misattribution. The mistake is assuming that because someone presents confidently, they must also have great analytical skills or a strong work ethic or integrity. Those things need separate evidence, right? They need to be evaluated on their own merits. When a manager doesn't actively separate the confident presentation from the actual ability to do the job's tasks, they're falling for the halo. They're using the shortcut, not the full analysis.
Got it. So it's about not letting one trait dominate the whole picture. And this isn't just in the workplace, is it? I imagine it happens in schools too.
Oh, definitely. Research shows similar patterns in education. Teachers, often unconsciously, might perceive students they find physically attractive as being brighter, maybe more innocent if there's trouble.
Really? Even less likely to be blamed for things.
Yes, potentially less culpable. And this positive perception, this sort of halo the teacher sees, it can subtly change how the teacher interacts with that student. Maybe more encouragement, more positive expectation. And that, in turn, can actually create a bit of a positive feedback loop. It can sometimes nudge the student's performance up temporarily.
That's fascinating. And if we zoom out even further to society now,
Mm.
Social media. It feels like influencer culture is almost built on the halo effect.
It's perhaps the ultimate showcase, isn't it? The peak, really. An influencer builds their brand around maybe one core positive trait they project, looking incredibly healthy or successful or just constantly happy on camera, and that single powerful attribute creates such a strong halo that they're suddenly perceived as, well, knowledgeable about almost anything.
Yeah, you see that all the time.
Right. Suddenly they're giving advice on everything from, I don't know, toothpaste and skincare to complex financial investments or parenting techniques. Their credibility, built in one narrow area, maybe just aesthetics, somehow transfers via the halo onto completely different products or domains, all thanks to that positive glow.
It's interesting you use the word glow or shine
Mm.
because there's a dark side too, right? Like a shadow. If one positive thing can lift everything up, doesn't one negative thing do the opposite?
Absolutely, that's the horn effect.
Right?
Same mechanism, just
Yeah.
inverted. A single negative impression can cast a shadow over the entire perception of a person.
Okay, so like the opposite of a halo horns.
Exactly. Think about it. Someone shows up 10 minutes late for a really important meeting, or maybe their clothes are just sloppy, unkempt. Instantly, that one negative detail, the lateness, the messiness, can lead to snap judgments about everything else. Oh, they must be irresponsible, probably lazy, maybe not that bright. Their whole competence, their commitment, it all gets questioned because of that one single horn. It darkens their whole profile.
That's powerful too. Okay, let's pivot to maybe the most emotionally charged area where this plays out. Love, relationships. That the whole idea of love at first sight feels like it must be tangled up in the halo effect, especially with physical attraction creating such a strong initial pull.
It absolutely is, a huge part of it anyway. Psychologists often talk about the beautiful is good stereotype. It's this automatic, unconscious tendency we have. When we see someone we find physically attractive, our brains tend to just fill in the blanks with other positive qualities.
Like what sort of quality?
Oh, things like kindness, being sociable, intelligent, even assuming they're generally happier people.
Yeah.
We mentally code attractiveness as goodness, essentially, based almost entirely on their looks.
But is there any actual link? Like, are attractive people really kinder or smarter on average?
Well, that's the crucial point. There's no real scientific correlation, zero proven link between physical appearance and those intrinsic personality traits. Someone might look like a movie star, like the perfect partner, but they could have, a truly awful sense of humor. Or maybe they completely lack empathy, but because that initial halo from their attractiveness is so dazzlingly bright, our brains tend to just skim over those flaws. We minimize them, excuse them, especially early on, at least until the reality starts to inevitably crack that shiny surface.
And this feels especially relevant with modern dating, right? Like dating apps, Tinder, Bumble, all of them. It's all about that split-second decision based on a photo.
Exactly. It's the halo effect optimized for speed. A single photo, which, let's be honest, is often just one flattering moment, maybe good lighting. The right angle becomes the entire symbol for that person's potential. That single image creates the halo, or maybe the lack of one, and determines a swipe left or right in literally seconds.
Okay, so the halo gets us interested, maybe makes us ignore some early red flags, but then what? Does it just wear off?
It often does, but there's another layer here, something quite complex. The self-fulfilling prophecy angle. Think about it. If you start by labeling someone as great or amazing because of the halo effect.
Right, because they seemed charming or looked good.
Precisely. Because of that initial halo, you naturally start treating them differently. Better, probably. You might be more patient with them, give them more compliments, generally project more positive energy their way.
Okay, I can see that.
And what happens? The person receiving all this positive treatment often responds in kind. They react positively to your energy. And for a little while, they might actually start acting more like that better person you initially perceived them to be.
So the halo actually makes them behave better, temporarily.
It can, yes. The initial, possibly flawed perception creates behavior that temporarily seems to validate it. The relationship feels good, you think, see, I was right about them. It reinforces the halo. Until, inevitably, the first significant flaw or disagreement emerges, and that fragile, constructed image starts to crack.
Wow. Okay, so this halo effect, this mental shortcut, it's efficient, sure, but it sounds like it can be really costly, misjudging job candidates, partners, maybe even investments based on surface-level stuff. So for everyone listening, how do we fight this? How do we build up some resistance, protect ourselves from falling into this trap when we're making important evaluations.
That's the key question, isn't it? We have to consciously override the brain's default tendency to just lump everything together based on one impression. There are a few key strategies, I'd say 3 vital ones. First, and maybe most importantly, is rigorous discernment. You have to consciously separate the features.
Separate the features. What does that look like in practice?
Before you make a big decision, hiring someone, choosing a business partner, even committing more deeply in a relationship, you need to stop and honestly pinpoint the single specific trait that's really wowing you. Actually name it, even if just in your head, okay, what's really impressing me here? It's just their really smooth way of talking, or it's only their amazing academic background.
So you identify that one standout trait, the source of the halo, and then kind of mentally quarantine it.
Isolate it.
Exactly. You isolate it so it doesn't bleed over and color your judgment of everything else. Because if you don't consciously separate that charm from, say, their actual technical skill or their track record for honesty or their ability to work under pressure, then the halo wins. You need to evaluate those other crucial traits, competence, integrity, empathy, completely independently of that initial dazzling feature. If you don't, you risk making huge mistakes based on, well, a nice smile or a fancy suit.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, so discernment first. What's strategy number 2?
Strategy 2 is about bringing in objectivity. Move away from relying purely on your overall impression and focus on data. Use checklists and objective metrics, especially in professional contexts like hiring or evaluating projects.
So, like scoring people against criteria. Precisely. Before you even meet the person or see the product, define your specific objective criteria. What exactly are you looking for? Then, score them against that checklist. Don't just go with your gut feeling of, oh, I really liked them. Force yourself to look at the measurable things. Did they meet the skill requirements? What were their past results? What do the references actually say? Focus on facts, not just the feeling the halo creates.
Okay, separate the features, use objective data.
Yeah.
What's the third strategy?
The third one is simple but crucial. Allow time. Give the halo a chance to fade. Cognitive biases like the halo effect thrive on speed. They work best when we make snap judgments. So resist the urge to make major commitments immediately after a really strong positive first impression, whether it's a business deal or a new relationship.
Just slow down.
Yes, sleep on it, delay the decision, give yourself some distance.
Yeah.
That pause allows the initial emotional impact, the brightness of the halo, to diminish a bit. It gives your more rational, analytical brain time to kick back in. You can then reevaluate more calmly, see if the substance actually matches the initial shine.
Okay, so actively separate the traits, rely on objective data, and give it time. That seems like a solid toolkit. It really comes down to shifting from that fast, intuitive assessment to a more deliberate, structured evaluation, doesn't it? Because really, no matter how bright that halo seems, or maybe how sharp the horns appear on first glance, underneath it all, there's just a complex person or a complex product that deserves a fair look. Hopefully, now that you know the game your mind is playing, you can approach those first impressions with a bit more, let's say, healthy skepticism. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the halo effect. Next time, we're going to tackle another fascinating and often costly mental trap, the sunk cost fallacy. Why do we keep pouring time, money, or effort into something, a bad investment, a failing project, maybe even a relationship that clearly isn't working just because we've already put so much in? Why is it so hard to just cut our losses? Why does that psychology of, well, I've come this far, keep us stuck, doubling down on bad bets? That's the really interesting and sometimes expensive puzzle we'll be exploring. Until then, try to keep your perceptions open. We'll see you next time.